I was born up in Victoria, British Columbia, 19, Halloween, 1921. And I don't remember too much about that at that era because actually my mother and father separated very shortly after. And when I was about 2.5 years old, she moved and I moved down to Portland, Oregon.
So it was just you and your mom growing up? There was no other relatives?
No, other than the fact that, I'd
Go visit in Vancouver?
I'd go visit all of her aunts and uncles and all of my cousins and so forth. And I enjoyed it up in Victoria.
And what was your mom's name?
Edna Blake. My dad was Ernest J. Down, and she
Wow.
was her Blake was her maiden name, and that's as a matter of fact through my entire life, it's all been William. When I was in the service, everybody called me Bill, William B. Down, because that's the way your name was in the service. Definitely grew up in Portland. But then when I got to high school, I went to the Hill Military Academy. I was on the wrestling team at 135 pounds, and I played end on the football team, and enjoyed that very, very much. Through that, I did get, they had the ROTC there,
Right.
and I did get a reserve commission. I became a citizen when I was 21, and I used to.
You were at Oregon State then?
No, I went to Reed College for 2 years.
Oh, that's right. And then how did you decide to go to Oregon State after that?
Well, partly, I lived at home, went to Reed, and it was partly kind of like to get off, in a different atmosphere and maybe away from home. I was pledged to become a DU down there. So I was a math major, and I corrected math papers. I also loved to play cards. And
Yeah.
the guys in the fraternity thought that hearts was just a kind of a old maid type game. And I think I just about made my spending money playing hearts with the guys. Well, we're going to get him this time, and then all of a sudden, has anybody got any hearts?
Right.
God, he did it again. So, I love that.
So that you were about 19, so it was about 1940, the war was starting in Europe.
I was in the fraternity house, and one Sunday, there was 4 or 5 sitting around the den. All of a sudden, somebody said, "Oh my God,
On Pearl Harbor.
yeah, turn the news on," and so forth. But then I was.
That meant the radio.
Yeah, that meant the radio. But then
Sorry.
what happened was I was deferred to finish school. So I graduated in June of '43. Assigned to the Army. I was in the infantry, and we were sent to the 104th Infantry Division, which at that time was up in Bend. And so we went up there and...
Did you have a wolf on your...
Yep.
I don't know why I remember.
Timberwolf.
Timberwolf.
The 104th with the Timberwolves.
Yeah.
And it was... the thing I remember more than anything else, and jumping ahead, like when I was over in Belgium and Holland fighting this war, the thing that everybody knew is that 100% of the people in the United States were supporting it, doing everything. The women are building ships, the Rosie the Riveter, whatever.
Yeah.
The whole country was 100% behind it.
But yeah, it must have felt good to have everybody behind.
Oh yeah, I mean it was a whole national effort. We were shipped to New York, then we went across the Atlantic in a convoy. It took us about 5 days.
5 days.
Yeah, to get across.
And then you were...
Then we landed in England.
In English, right?
And actually, while I was in England, my grandmother was still alive there.
In England?
In England.
Had you met her before?
Well, no, I'd seen pictures and so forth. But that was my dad's mother. But I did manage to get a pass and I got down to see my grandmother in England there. And all her friends and so forth, and she was just tickled to death
I'll
to
bet.
see me. Of course, there were an awful lot of troops in England, though the English used to say, well, the only problem with Americans is that they're oversexed, overpaid, and overheard. But by that time, D-Day had come along.
Oh, you got there after D-Day.
After D-Day, we went across and landed we're on the Omaha Beach with.
Mhm.
And I tell you, I looked at that and I wondered how anybody ever made that. I was the second lieutenant then. I didn't have, I mean, I'd go get the rations every day and to the truck and bring them back. I mean, it was kind of a soft life there for a few days. But then we moved up and we were attached to the 1st Canadian Army up in Belgium. We went into action up there in Belgium, and we kind of fought our way up into Holland. We got up to the Mark River, so we were going to attack, probably go across about midnight. And our artillery had set pretty much a lot of houses in a little town on fire, so it was fairly bright. They brought assault boats up on the river, and so we all went across on assault boats. And we got across there, and I was regrouping my platoon on the other side of the river. And there was one of my guys was kind of stretched out there. I turned like this to see who it was, and a sniper hit me. I don't know whether you ever seen it, right?
Mhm.
Just about that far above, to the left of my spine, and it lodged in this bone up here.
Mhm.
Well, they gave me a shot of morphine, carried me back, and laid me in an assault boat.
You were seriously injured. You never went back.
Well, actually, I was shipped to a hospital up in northern England. Then I got good enough, feeling good enough, and so forth, so I was able to get a pass. I used to go down to London a lot. And it was amazing. London was an amazing city. And then the whole company, we were going back. And we came back on the Queen Mary. We went up to Scotland to get on the Queen Mary, but it's too big, you can't dock it there. So they was sitting out in the harbor, and then they'd take the lighters out and load everybody up. And I think we had like 16,000 men on board the Queen Mary. And I think, we're the first large group to come back. And when we came into New York City, boy, I tell you, all the fire boats, the bells were ringing.